Hi, I'm Daisy Melvin, and I am a BYU Idaho student, a marriage and family studies major, and I got to sit down this week with a licensed practicing counselor. Her name is Lindsay Wallace Doherty, and she's also certified in biofeedback, and she's a national certified counselor as well. She works out of the Kids Are Great Pediatrics office here in Colorado Springs, Colorado on North Weber, and the phone number there is 719-577-4200. Lindsay works in private practice, so she's got a lot of flexibility and a lot of control over her hours and things. She can accept the clients that she wishes to, and she can take time off if she ever needs to. Lindsay is able to let her values dictate how she does things. She was in an office before where she shared with 3 other counselors, and they were openly hostile about her Christian beliefs. And so it didn't take very long before Lindsay felt like she needed to make a change, and she was able to find this option to lease with Kids Are Great Pediatrics, where most of the people there are openly Christian like she is. And so that was a much better, much more peaceful atmosphere for her to work in. And she made that change. When she made that change, she actually took about a 50% pay cut because she started taking more patients that rely on government health insurance programs, and those programs generally don't pay as well for the same services, and so she took that big pay cut, about 50%, she said. But she feels like her work is a calling, and that serving those people is really satisfying. She's able to help someone that other people have turned away because they don't want to deal with their problems or because they don't want to deal with their insurance. Throughout our interview, Lindsay came back again and again to the value of the flexibility in her practice. One of the ways that she was able to illustrate that is that a couple of years ago here in Colorado Springs, there was quite a shock in the community when a forest fire topped a ridge and then raced down into town faster than anybody expected ever would happen. And one of the neighborhoods that were hardest hit was Lindsay's neighborhood. Now, her home was able to be saved by firefighters, but it was heavily damaged, and it was weeks before it was able to be lived in again, and it'll be years actually before they don't have to worry and hold their breath every time it rains, because they'll be worried about flooding and mudslides in that part of town every time it rains, or even with snow melt, they'll have issues. So when that all happened, Lindsay was able to take about 6 weeks and just close her doors for that amount of time and take care of the things with her home and her family that they needed to be able to restore some of that security and stability that they had lost because of the fire. Then when she was ready to come back, her practice was there and waiting for her with her normal schedule. Typical stress in a family practice with private practice. In the early years of Lindsay's practice, she said that she really struggled with the heartbreak that she felt for her clients. Their issues and their struggles and the way that they chose to deal with them really, really broke her heart, and she took it home with her. And it wasn't very long before her husband told her to either find something else to do or learn to deal with it. And so she was able to kind of change her mindset and realize that she can't help everybody fix everything in their lives, and their choices are still their own, so she can't dictate to them what they have to do because they still have some agency there. But she did learn that making a difference, however small, is worth it making, and that however many people she can touch, that they're all worth it. She also realized that her family was her priority, and she needed to structure things and approach things in a way that allowed her work to be a blessing and make her a better mom and a better wife, rather than making it harder for her and her family. As she did that, those stresses, even though they're still there when she's sitting in the moment, they don't go home with her anymore. And she finds most of her stress these days in clerical work. There are lots of insurance companies to keep up with, both in the way that you document things and in the way that you bill things. And there are often discrepancies in what you submit and what they expect, and so you have to go back and fix them. It's easier to stay on top of them on the front side, but sometimes it's just not possible to keep up with everything, and so you have to go back and fix things on the other side of things, or you don't get paid. One example that she gave me of a nightmare she's been dealing with is that the military healthcare system has transitioned from Humana to United over the last year, and United and TRICARE, the company that talks to the people more, they just don't seem to be talking very well with one another. And so Lindsay's been trying to resolve things. She's got clients that she's been seeing that entire time, almost a year now, and she hasn't been paid despite her efforts to jump through the hoops that she's been told to jump through. She still just has not been paid. So she hates having to run from one phone call or fax or email and one patient and one insurance company to another, trying to figure out what everybody needs and jump through all those hoops and put out all those fires. She just really doesn't like that part of the job. And she actually contracts out and hires somebody to do her billing, but she still has to be involved in the resolution of issues that come up. As far as benefits go, Lindsay does not have health insurance or retirement or anything unless she does it completely on her own. It's not part of the deal when you work on private practice. However, for her, it's not a big issue because her husband has a position that has all those benefits. For her, again, that most valuable benefit is the flexibility, and she really appreciates the satisfaction spiritually that she gets from helping people who really need her help and her skill set. Lindsay typically spends about 25 hours a week in face-to-face time with her clients, and then has additional time that she spends with the paperwork documentation and on the phone trying to resolve discrepancies and issues with things. She said that when she very first opened her doors to practice on her own that she had to worry about marketing, but that it's been years since she's really had to worry about that. She just goes by word of mouth now. She did say again that keeping up with those policies for different companies really eat up a lot of her time, and she does not enjoy them, but they're a necessary part of getting paid when you do the kind of work that she does. Lindsay's education, she had a double major. She did a BS in psychology as well as in counseling, and something interesting is that her counseling degree was actually from an education department. It was a big school with a big department in education, and the counseling was actually run as part of that education department. So she got a different approach and maybe some different perspectives than your typical counseling program, which she really enjoyed. And then she did the first year of her master's program in physical rehabilitation management, but then she switched when her family relocated, and she switched programs and finished up in general counseling because of that. Each one of Lindsay's certifications and designations has specific continuing education requirements. The biofeedback certification requires 80 hours of continuing education every 4 to 5 years, and for that same time, the board certification requires 60 hours. Those continuing education hours Lindsay prefers to do in person in small classes or at conferences, but they could also be done in online course settings or through bookwork. The starting salary range for a family therapist is around $45,000, and the experience salary range, Lindsay says she's got lots of friends that are working full-time making well over $100,000. Lindsay is designated as part-time because she has only 25 hours a week. If she went, and she only sees patients 3 days a week, if she went to 5 days a week, she would nearly double that, and that would make a big difference. I did ask Lindsay if there was anything she'd like to give as counsel or advice to students who are considering a career following in her footsteps. And she said she really recommends being aware of the laws in the area where you intend to practice, specifically custody laws and confidentiality as they relate to custody issues. She has had parents that are in the middle of a divorce and fighting about custody that are very interested in knowing that someone is talking to her about the child, or that the child is talking to the counselor, and parents who try and manipulate children to say they want to choose one or the other. And so being aware of what the law says about whether or not a child is even given that option and things like that, and what a counselor needs to talk to a parent about, or both parents about, when a child is involved. Those things are very important. Having a good support network and good experienced sources who you can go to when those questions arise really makes a difference. Lindsay didn't have those things when she started out, and she says she wishes that she had known she would benefit from them. So that is what I learned talking with Lindsay Wallace Doherty about being a family therapist in private practice. Thanks.